Okay, we are live. Hello, everybody. It's me, Helen, and the lovely Rebecca Marsden is here to talk all about Rebecca. This week's I'm so, I don't know, over talking about myself. I know it's marketing, but it's like, here I am doing my thing, talking about LinkedIn, talking about business. But let's hear from somebody else. So, Rebecca, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Rebecca Marsden. I'm helping women to achieve financial independence and key life goals by using a 90-day roadmap for milestones that they can achieve and implement quite easily and simply.
Money.
Money.
Money is my favorite thing to talk about. My favorite thing to talk about on my platforms as well, because someone came up to me once and they said, you're like the first woman I've ever met who talks about money like the way you do. And I surround myself with people who talk about money in the way that I do. So to me, I'm just like one of many. But for her, she was like, no one talks about money in my family. No one talks about money in my business. No one talks about money in my friendship group. So tell me, Rebecca, what made you, tell me your story then. Give me the edited highlights of what's led you here.
At 22, I got divorced, which left me in substantial debt. And then doing what I thought was the right thing and the right way to deal with that debt, I was just trying to get the next pay rise so I was working even harder just to deal with the debt. So I was only ever focusing on sorting out the debt. And through that process, the debt actually started to get worse when I was on sick for nearly 2 years with slip disc. And so I did find a way. I was building multi-million-pound businesses for companies in my career using strategy and project and planning. And I thought, well, if I can do that in business, what's stopping me doing that in my own life and changing the way I'm being told to do things financially to sort out these sort of financial issues that I'm having, which is what I did. So I started to create my own strategy, different tools, how to sort of simply budget, but also how to pay the debt off, what order to pay it off, what to focus on first, sort of looking at my spending and all those side of things. And it actually started to work quite quickly at that point. And then in 2018, as I say, I started to sort of work on my own business, coaching business, as well as my career side of things. And I managed to clear £45,000 worth of debt. And carried on. And then I've got a property portfolio as well, which I managed to build up while I was still in debt. So I thought, well, I've obviously got a bit of a skill to do this as well. So I've been doing property developing on and off through my career as well. And then COVID hit. So that took a huge hit because I was working on 2 projects that needed to be sold the moment the market shut down, basically with COVID, which meant then I had to get a bounce back loan. So more debt. And then for some reason, the banks requested the debt to be repaid in 14 days, even though it's my own bank, which scared the life out of me, as you can imagine. But I was in a lucky position that I was able to act really quickly because once I picked myself up off the floor, I used strategies, had conversations, and basically I managed to clear another 50K's worth of debt in 90 days, which was like, thank goodness, that was a relief. And then I've continued. There's sort of other little bits of debt that were left over from these bounce back loans. So I've cleared it. So overall, I've managed to clear £117,000 worth of debt, managed to maintain a property portfolio. I've never been more financially secure using the strategy and the roadmap that I've created for myself. So I'm now teaching clients and helping and supporting particularly women to take responsibility for their finances and know that it's our life. We've got to put our own needs first. Focus on our finances as that springboard to achieving what it is you really want to achieve in life, which is probably financial independence, but usually there's something underlying that they actually want to achieve with their life. And that's just a way and a method to help them achieve that by sorting out the finances first.
I love that because, see, there's different schools of thought, let's put it that way. So I'm just going to go with my school of thought. And my school of thought is don't teach something if you're not living it and you've not done it and you don't have lived experience of it, right? So I do see people who teach financial freedom who don't have financial freedom, security, okay? And that's their choice, right? But I love that you're living it. It's not just lived experience, but you're living it now. Do you know what I mean? You're kind of like, you're actively, proactively engaged in your own financial security, in your own financial management. And the debt is a real, you'll know, obviously you're in my world, you've done the challenge, you're in the mastermind, you'll have heard the Wednesday story, which I'll be telling again on Wednesday. And I think one of the reasons why I tell my story around being in debt and being divorced like yourself, young, and, being left in financial difficulty and managing being in debt is that there's so much shame around it. It's still a huge taboo. It's still something that people feel ashamed of. They feel guilt about it. They feel like they can't, how it's like having something that's held over you the whole time. Dealing with financial institutions is really challenging, can be really challenging. There's definitely a way to do that. And I think a lot of people are so frightened, of debt collectors. I always used to say it's good when they go to the debt collector because they just want to get some money. They're like this. I always found, like, with my experience, that once they went to a debt collector, then we could start having a conversation because they were kind of like, they bought the debt, they want to get something as long as you're willing, Whereas I found dealing, this is my personal story anyway, I would never bank with Barclays again. I just wouldn't, because of I felt like they were just awful to deal with when I was kind of in a really difficult situation. And, debt is part of life for a lot of people. And I feel like, I know when I tell my story, it does really resonate with a lot of people. And I think the more women like us talk about debt as if something, it's just part of your story, isn't it? It's just, my dad said to me, it's just numbers on a spreadsheet, and it's not, because it's all tied in with your sort of your labels and your self-worth and your hopes and dreams. But I know, like, what would you say to somebody who's watching this right now, who's in so much debt they feel like there's no way out? Because I know there's a way out, there's a way out. Like, what would you say to somebody right now for watching this?
I think for me, it's always knowing that there is always a solution. Sometimes it makes some big decisions to make such a big impact and make a total change. And sometimes it's just getting real clarity about where you are now and having conversations openly with what it is you're trying to achieve. And as you say, as long as you keep talking to people, talking to the institutions and everything else, so you don't get to a stage where they think you're hiding from the debt, then you can definitely make a big difference. There's always a solution.
There is always a solution, and it still happens to me. Like, we had a historical debt come up from HMRC, and I was like, just spoke, the guy, and I was like, he was like, can you pay it all now? And I was like, no, that's not going to happen, but I can do this, this, and this. And it's kind of like having that confidence to deal with institutions when that does come with time, I think, doesn't it, and experience. And I think when you actually look at it, when you zoom out and you're not in it and you're feeling like you're the only person it's happening to, because it happens to lots of people, especially post-COVID, and we've seen it, like I say, with bounce back loans and all the rest of it. And, I think that when you actually realize that everybody wants the same outcome, nobody wants to send you to prison or make you bankrupt, really. Everyone loses. Everyone's looking for the win-win, aren't they? Everyone wants to get, and I think that being aware of it. I mean, I didn't open my post for 3 years. I think it might have been more than 3 years. I just was like, I didn't answer my phone. I didn't open my post. And it was only really when I got all that paperwork out and looked at it and wrote it all down, I was like, well, now at least I know what I'm dealing with. Mine was like 90 grand. So I was like, but again, I didn't have a business. I didn't have a means to kind of get away with it. I was earning 20 grand a year. And I was thinking, how is this the math's going to work out? But like you say, you've got to make a big change, haven't you? Yeah. And for me, I knew that I would never earn enough money to pay that off myself with the sort of skill set and the experience that I had with 2 kids and no degree and no real experience. So I had to start a business. Didn't really have a choice. So, I think sometimes you've got to take control. And one of the things that I say, and I'm sure I'll say it this week, is like, no one's coming to save you, right? When you realize that, it's kind of like you take radical self-responsibility. You got to crack on and get some action done with it. So tell me about your strategies then. Tell me about your, the 90-day that you talked about.
Yeah, I mean, it's each week we deal with a different subject to take you through the process of actually working out exactly what it is you're wanting to achieve. Because obviously debt is just part of the process. Yeah. It's not the actual goal of being out of debt. It's going beyond that, trying to think bigger and giving yourself the space to be able to do that. And I think that's really important. And that's a big part of the program. But then also going back to basics to build those building blocks for how you do deal with your debt if you're in debt. Because I do find that a lot of my clients, you know, they're actually earning quite well, but they're struggling financially, and they tend to have debt. And they're also starting to think, okay, I need to think about my pension and the bigger picture. It's not just about what happens now, it's what's going to happen next. So it's through the 90 days, it's like a really quick way of turning it around, changing your financial thinking, putting the building blocks in place and building the roadmap of like milestones that you're wanting to achieve. And obviously it will take more than 90 days to sort everything out, but you have the plan, you have the skills, you've taught what you need to know, and then you can carry on in sort of my momentum program, which is a longer term program. But initially it's the 90 days to just turn things around for you.
Yeah, and I think, it's that committing to it, isn't it? And taking responsibility and saying, I'm not, the worst thing you can possibly do with finances of any kind is to be in denial and just think it's going to go away, because it doesn't go away. It's not going to go away. So I love that 90-day of saying, right, I'm going to deal with this. This is going to be, you know, something that I'm going to commit to and put time and energy into. And then obviously the longer picture. I imagine that the real thing that you're selling, you know, because the thing is never really a thing. The real thing that you're selling is having somebody to support you in it.
That's it.
Because so people feel very isolated and alone.
Yeah, so we can talk openly without judgment, exactly what they are. Doesn't matter what's happened before, how they've got to that point. Okay, let's just acknowledge where we are, deal with the situation it is, turn it around, think about the longer plan, and actually have that support to know, right, what order to do things in, you know, to start building that momentum.
Yeah, of course. And being around people who are in a similar situation, like you say, and just saying this is where we're all at and where we need to go now. And I'm sure there's a massive part of celebrating the wins as well, and, you know, cheering people on and just that accountability, isn't it? It doesn't matter what you're trying to achieve, whether it's, you know, I was laughing with my kickboxing instructor because every time I do a run, I send him a picture of the stats from the run. And I said to him yesterday, I was like, not yesterday, Friday, I was like, should I just stop sending you these? Because I'm sure you've got, you know, he's probably got 30, 40, 50 clients. And he's like, no, I love it because I know how hard it was for you to get to that point and you're running, you know. So to me, it's like the first thing I want to do when I do a good run is send that picture to him, because he sort of cheerleaded me and seen me in that whole journey. No point me sending that to like my sister, or, you know, they'd just be like, great. They don't really understand what it means to me. And I imagine that's a very big part of the community that you build, is that people really feel that, you know, whether it's as simple as, I know you talked about budget and looking at your spending. I know a lot of people don't want to do that. You know, a lot of people are like, I'll just earn more money and just keep spending the way I do. But there's definitely a win to be made, both sides of the equation, right? And what you're spending and what you're bringing in. Dog is eating all the stuff out of my office. Dog's eating my makeup brush. It's fine. But like, to, you know, even if it's something really small, like I walked straight past Costa today and I took my coffee in my own cup and I saved £2.80. It's like, yeah, like I imagine that you and the people in your communities really feel that, you know?
Yeah, and it's not always about cutting back. It's just prioritizing what it is that's really important to you as well. Yeah. So sometimes, you know, it might be that you do actually need that latte. You want to meet with friends. You want to be able to get out.
Yeah, conscious spending, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not about just cutting everything back. It's just what your priorities are and making a plan to achieve that. I think that's the thing. It's personal to each person.
Yeah, so Lisa Marie's got a really good question, and it's something that I know we've discussed before, talking about spending when you're in debt and investing when you're in debt, and that feeling of like, can I go on holiday? Can I buy this program? Can I do the, you know, should I buy a new jumper because I've been in debt? You know, it's almost like, I get that. But Lisa's question is, can I ask, if someone's in that much debt, would they have a budget to work with you? So that's a good, you know, a good question. It's like, so how much is it to work with you, Rebecca? Like, what's the price point of working with you?
Well, there's a couple of options. I do a all-day workshop, which is $397 for the day, and also the 90-day program is $397 a month for 3 months. So trying to keep it accessible, but there is quite a lot of sort of me time with part of that program as well as.
Yeah, no, it's not a judgment at all. I mean, it's just, it's almost that duality, isn't it? I attract a lot of people who are in debt because of the, and then they come to me and they say, well, I can't buy your program because it's £2,000. So it's just out the realms of possibility. And I give away loads of stuff for free. And I'm sure you do give a lot of support for free as well. And there's loads of great debt charities out there as well. I think for £400, particularly someone's in, like you said earlier, and Lisa also pointed out to, that you said earlier, a lot of people are earning good money. So it's not that they haven't got the cash flow to invest. It's more that they're looking at the big picture and it's a bit scary. They're living on the day-to-day thing rather than, and a lot of people manage their debt, don't they?
They do.
They sort of think, well, I can pay the debt, so it's all right. And we saw a lot of this. I saw a thing, I shared a meme before about how Libras and Cancers and Capricorns, there's this, whatever, I don't know, Pluto's going out your second house, and it's been in there since 2008. And I was thinking, yeah, like 2008 for me was when, the first sort of credit crunch as we knew it and the big five. And a lot of people were just maxed out. We were, we had a mortgage up to the hill or something we couldn't afford, but we managed the debt.
Yeah.
People have lifestyle, don't they? They have. I do a lot with the food bank, and people will turn up in an Audi A8 or whatever, and they can't, because they've got the lifestyle, but you lose your job, you can't just send your car back. You've got a commitment to that loan. You can't just move out your house like that. Do you know what I mean? You can't. So the commitments that you've got, you can't just sort of say, well, that's it. I can't afford to pay my house, my car, and all the rest of it. And I think this is, again, just sort of how it all catches up in that sort of guilt and shame. And it's really important work that you're doing, Rebecca. It really is really important work. And I think that at that price point, I think it's very reasonable for life-changing support and advice and like a lot of time with you, because it's the nuances, isn't it? It's everybody's situation will be different, won't it?
Absolutely, it is. And that's why it is a personal tailored roadmap. So you're working through it to be able to find out what's really important to you, what you need to prioritize. And as I say, it's not just about cutting back, it's about prioritizing what's important. And if you know that holidays is a really important part of it, it's about readjusting things to make it work. And yes, there's a bit of a sort of a basic level of sorting out your budget and things like that, but it doesn't need to be forever. It could just be for right now to deal with the issues and then get you back on your path for hitting the other milestones that you're looking to achieve. Because just debt is just part of the journey. It's not why you're doing it. I know you get stuck in it and you think, once the debt's paid, I can do. Once the debt's paid, I can do this. And you think, no, it's probably stopping you making decisions and being creative with your thinking because you're just stuck in that part. And it's the case of, look, let's get your finances sorted out. Because whilst you're in debt, even if it's manageable, it's stopping the opportunity that you could be having in the future, even just paying into a pension. It could be going to that rather than towards the banks, and making a difference for your long term.
Yeah, it's just, anyway, I just think it's so important that we're just having this conversation. And I think if anyone is watching this who's got debt or even just wants to get better at managing the finances, it might be that you've got loads of money. So I had the opposite thing. I went from being in a lot of debt to making loads of money. And I was like, I don't know how to handle this. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, just getting rid of it. I was just like, just giving it to people and spending it and giving it away. And like, it was almost like I just wasn't prepared for having money because I was so used to being in this mindset of like, I've got no money. That was kind of my identity for like, I'm broke. So I couldn't get to grips with this having money thing. So that was, again, it's almost like an education of myself the other way. I had to up level my, investments and all this kind of, but again, you're not really trained for it, are you? You're not educated into it. So, you have to, I think it's really important that people like yourself, Rebecca, are out there actually educating people in this stuff, because you think, well, I'm a 44-year-old middle-aged mom of 4 teenagers. I should know this stuff, right? But if you don't know, you don't know what you don't know, do you? So I think it's very powerful to get that. And you can take yourself a long way. Like, again, if anyone's watching this who's in serious financial difficulties and has no money to invest, Step Change, I found, I don't know how you find Step Change, Rebecca, but I found them really, really good. But it was 10, 15 years ago. There are charities out there that do amazing work as well. But it's just to take a step in the direction, isn't it? Take a step in the right direction for sure. And be sure you're not alone.
And I think you know, if you really are in severe debt and you really don't know how you're going to pay things, the main thing is to actually talk and negotiate your debt as well. So if you know you have no opportunity to work with people and pay people and help for your help, actually talking to somebody at the companies that you've got debt with, negotiating, particularly if you've got some money that you can negotiate. I managed to negotiate my debt, some of the debts down to 30% of the value of the original value. I was on sick benefit, so it's a case of like, you know, this is what I've got, here's the proportion I can give to you, and they accepted it, and that was wiped off. So yes, it did affect my credit file, so it's not something you do if you can earn enough to cover it, but it certainly made a big difference.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. When I was in big debt, like my uncle actually paid some of it off, and then I paid him back. But what he did, not because he's in finance, and I didn't know you could even do this. He literally rang up and was like, "What's the full?" This is just for one loan, but full and final settlement. And they gave him a figure which was way less than what I owed. And he, like you say, it messes with your credit rating massively. But because he was able to just pay it, like with his debit card or whatever, because he lives in a different universe to me. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, people are paying these debts for years and years and years. And also getting your interest frozen, if you can, you know, can make a huge difference, because that's snowballing. And I think we are in a slightly different landscape now. I think there has been a bit, well, post-COVID definitely, but even before, I think there's been a much better education in the organizations, you know, of saying actually, like I said before, let's try and get a win-win here. Let's get the money back. Let's not like let this go on and on and on. And, you know, because that costs money and credit control costs money. So I think really looking at it and thinking, talking to them and just asking them, you know, what is the best solution here? They want to come to a resolution just like you do. So that's a really, you don't need to work with anyone. Don't go to one of these debt consolidation companies. No, we don't. We definitely don't recommend those. And the thing is, the sad thing is, if you do start using buyer behavior, like looking for payday loans, let's not use those, or like looking for credit repair cards and things like that, then that will flag you up to all of the absolute horrible companies out there who will prey on you, debt consolidation companies. So don't go with them. So Charity, Rebecca, speaking to your organizations, they're all okay. But I think we have seen a change in organizations that they are looking to get to solutions. But like I say, there's a definite spectrum of people who are, you know, in a situation they can't see any way out of. And I think that is really sad, because in my experience, and I'm sure in yours, there's always a solution of some kind to be had, because everybody wants to win-win. Right through to people who are, you know, they're on the surface, everything looks great, but deep down, how do you feel about your finances? You know what I mean? It's like, how confident are you? When you talked about financial stability and security, in their words, that a lot of people will find difficult to really connect with, because financial stability and security is something that is elusive, I would say, for a lot of people.
Yeah, it seems like a small thing. It's all right to talk about financial freedom, but that's like the long term that you're looking to achieve. But for the start, it's just getting to that point of security, which just gives you that breathing space to think about what it is you're really wanting to achieve in life, and then work towards that.
Yeah, really important. Okay, it's challenge week this week, Rebecca. Are you coming back to do the challenge again, or you're all done with that and you're right?
I'm done with that. I'm signed in with you and I'm doing the work. So
how are you finding the program so far inside the Mastermind?
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I've not had an opportunity to join all the calls, but I've been looking at all the coursework in the background and been updating the profile and my about section, and totally changed the way I was sort of working with it. So that's been really interesting.
Nice, I love it. And in the future, in the sort of next quarter or so, would you be as kind to come in and do a guest expert spot inside the program just to talk about managing finances? I think that'd be great for everybody.
Look forward to doing that. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, thank you. So if anyone wants to find you, Rebecca, where did he find you? Where do you
find me at Instagram? It's Rebecca Marsden Official, or LinkedIn at Rebecca Marsden Coach.
Love it. Right. Thank you very much, darling. Have an amazing day.
And thank you. Speak to you later. Bye.
I'll see you in the group. Bye, darling.